and Diego Guerra, river staff.
Then in the back,
County Marine Safety Specialist.
and anybody online?
Heather's online.
I'm online.
Yes, I'm online. Heather Maggio with the City of Tampa. It's hard for me to hear though. All I'm hearing is a murmuring. Just if you would speak into the speaker, that would be great. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt, guys, but we can't hear you online.
You still can't hear me?
Now I can.
All right, I'll talk. Right into the mic. So for the approval of the previous meeting minutes from June 16th, I found only 2 minor errors with the spelling of my last name. First place is in call to order, second place is in the Pledge of Allegiance. My last name was spelled with an A instead of an E. Other than that, I have no other errors found. Does anybody have any other errors or corrections? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the previous minutes? So moved. Seconded by anybody?
Seconded.
Thank you, guys. All right, previous meeting minutes are approved. Next on our agenda is presentation by the Hillsborough County Marine Unit, Melvin Dixon and Stephen Decatur and others.
Thanks. Speaking here, test. Oh, there we go. Hey, hello everyone. Hi, I'm Melvin Dixon. I have the privilege of managing Hillsborough County Marine Safety Unit. I'm happy to be here this afternoon and just share what we do and how we look out for the community here in the waterway. So, of course, we're newly moved into the Code Enforcement Department under our Director Joe Gross. A little bit about myself. We'll go into each of us here. So the manager, my background, I'm 25 years Navy security forces, so please don't hold it against me. I specialize in protective service operations, of course, security operations, which included harbor patrol units and also strategic weapons security. Here, not only do I manage the Marine Safety Unit, but I also am their emergency support manager for 5 departments within the BOCC. I'm activated during gray skies or during when we have disaster time in the EOC is the Deputy Chief of Section of Operations. And I'll go ahead and let Steve introduce himself.
Stephen Decatur. I'm with Hillsborough County Marine Safety, work with Melvin Dixon.
A little bit about my background. I was with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office for 30 years. In that time, the last 6 years with the Sheriff's Office, I was the Marine Safety Marine Unit with the Sheriff's Office. After that, and being retired for about a year, I had an opportunity to come work for Hillsborough County in the Marine Safety Unit. And I know a few faces in here I'm familiar with. And day-to-day operations, we'll go through that. We go through the slideshow and everything. And Diego, do you want me to flip through these as we go, or do you want to come up?
Up to you.
Good. Okay, and a little bit about our unit. Go ahead and hit that one. Yep. Blake Milner is a supervisor that also works in our unit. Blake came to work with us beginning of the year around February, and came with good experience with CETO. A lot of experience with derelict vessels, and again, we'll go into a little bit about what we do with our day-to-day operations, and comes with a captain's license. Blake is a graduate from Florida Gulf Coast, and give you a little chance to introduce Alan.
Yeah, sure. So, Alan Grinaldi. So he came to us. He's also HCSO, retired 30 years on the force there. He's also a Navy guy like me, so he spent several years in the Navy. And he came to the county in code enforcement, regulatory compliance. He's an avid boater. He's been in Florida his whole life. So he came to the unit. He was actually an asset, and he definitely filled a critical need, especially during the 2024 hurricanes. But hey, there's a picture right there. And then there's our spokesperson for the unit. You'll see later on doing the slides. But Alan brings a ton of experience. He's always working with partners and willing to go the extra mile for us. Speaking of partners, we have several partners here, as you can see. Of course, all the local municipalities when we talk about TPD and HCSO, but also EPC, the port as well, Jackie. Got to mention them, right? As well as HCFR as well. We work with them doing for hazard material, oil spills, and things of that nature as well. I'll let Steve cover our vessels that we have that we use.
And briefly, before I start going into the unit, one thing we do that works directly with this organization is when we do the dock permits, we do also help with EPC and the Port Authority with review. Part of our part of the process for us is looking for hazards in navigation. So if you have a structure and any questions come up about the actual navigational navigability around them to make sure that a prudent mariner can get around any structures out there, we'll go out there and we'll actually physically look at them if needed. There's some parts of the bay and the rivers also that are big enough, and you can look and see, obviously, their structure is going to be okay. But if there's any question that comes in, especially from adjacent neighbors, we'll go out there to take a look to make sure that there's nothing that's in the way from somebody getting in and out of their property or utilizing the dock or the lifts that they're going to install. The big thing for us is that we also have a lot of regulatory signs out there. We have uniform waterway markers for idle speed, slow speed, manatee areas, and other protected areas that we have our signs erected, and it could be anywhere in the Hillsborough River, on Tampa Bay, Elafia, Little Manatee. So it's a pretty broad area. And one of the things that we talked about before coming today was that we wanted to provide a map. So we didn't put that into the PowerPoint, but just so you can understand that all of Tampa Bay, pretty much all the way from north of the Causeway by the airport, all the way out to the Skyway, past Egmont Key and out to the sea buoy is Hillsborough County. So a lot of people don't realize that when you get out to Egmont Key and out in the Gulf, a lot of that area is Hillsborough County. So there's a giant area that we're responsible for. Within that area, there's over 1,000 regulatory signs, and then there are a lot of private aids and navigation channels that we're responsible for. The Coast Guard takes care of the federal portion of it. So if you come into the shipping channel, any aids and navigations or ATONs are the responsibility of the federal government. Anything that's a private aid and navigation, just a quick snapshot up north of the Causeway. So if you were to look at Channel A, Baycrest, Dana Shores, areas up there, a lot of those channels are maintained by the county. So we have to make sure that the aids and navigation, any of the regulatory signs are in good condition, to include the piles, get run over, bad weather, other issues that we have to deal with for that. A little bit about the vessels. The big boat in the top of the PowerPoint up there is it's a 28-foot Munson. It's really closer to a 30-foot Munson. If you look at the front, there's big push knees up in the front, and then behind the motors, there's twin 150s on the back of that. Giant cage area to protect that, because a lot of what we do is basically like construction on the water. So that craft is about a 40-mile-an-hour craft. holds a lot of equipment. So we do a lot of operations working with different companies for derelict vessels. When I first came on about 6 years ago, we did a lot also with dive operations with the city of Tampa, Tampa Police Department, and also the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. So if we had to deploy lift bags and say you had a 40-foot boat sitting on the bottom, first thing was to see, how are we going to get it off the bottom, get the gunnels above the water level so we could try to use trash pumps to pump it out. We would have divers go down to help us rig the bags. So we had large bags that would have to be positioned under the vessels to lift them. Once we break the water, the top of the water, we would put pumps on them, pump them out, get them to where they're buoyant once again, float them, get them to the shoreline, and then depending on, who was funding the project to get the boats out of there, we would utilize either private contractors with heavy equipment or the county. So one of the things that we ran into several years ago was we had boats and we had no owners with money to pay for this. So everybody was like, who are we going to go after? Who's going to pay for it? And that can be problematic. But if you have nobody to take the vessel back to or to show ownership, then you still had the problem that had to be dealt with. So then we had to get creative with, well, what equipment do we have available? What personnel can we utilize to get those boats and take care of them? But again, that was the first vessel at the top is the 28, 30-foot Munson, which great workhorse, good for recovering vessels. The other boat below it with the dive flag deployed is a 21-foot Carolina skiff. Great riverboat, lakes. In addition to the bay and all the rivers, we have Lake Thanodisassa. We have some other waterways that are kind of off the beaten path. So we're not necessarily always going to be out in the salt water in the bay. We're all different parts of the rivers and also lakes throughout the county. We'll get calls for a variety of issues. So we have to have vessels that'll navigate those areas. And I think if I click here, no, we don't have it. So we don't have a picture of it, but with the vessels, we also have an 18-foot low boat. Did I hit the wrong button here?
No, you good. No, we didn't.
Did it go back? Did it go back
No,
there?
it went forward. You
Did
good.
it? Okay, I'm just looking at the screen up there.
Yeah, you
All
good.
right, we'll hold on to it. But we have an 18-foot low boat, which is a metal boat that we use in the upper part of the Hillsborough River. And that would be starting around Temple Terrace, 56th Street, where we have the slow and idle speeds going all the way up the river, past Fletcher Avenue to Lettuce Lake Park, and even further up to Nature's Classroom. There's 62 regulatory signs on the river that we also have to maintain for idle speed, slow speed, and so forth. And really that whole part of the river is restricted speed. So there's no skiing, nobody should be up there running on plane. So it's all slow speed operations. And with the river levels, that's pretty important because there's parts of the river up there that get very shallow. Rock bottom can be very dangerous. So if you're going anything over a slow speed or idle speed on the river, it can be very dangerous. The PowerPoint and looking at that, that's some of the operations we've done. The boat sitting up on the shoreline is a picture of a boat up at Williams Park at Alafia River, Highway 41. One of, I want to say we pulled 25, 30 vessels just out of that area alone. If you were up at Williams Park, it was a nightmare about 6 years ago. It looked like a boat graveyard. The largest boat was a 56-foot steel hull Chris Craft that was up in the mangroves. Once that boat was floated and brought over to the shoreline, we had to actually use torches and crews to cut it apart and take it piece by piece for the salvage. So there was a lot of heavy work there. The large trawler at the bottom of the screen there, was that Catfish's boat? Yeah. That boat was a recent boat. And I won't get into too much detail about the names or anything, but we had a subject living on the boat that was causing problems, eventually had a drug overdose. So once that person was gone, we had to work with law enforcement to get the recovery of that boat and remove it by trailer and then take it to another location where we could actually work on the disposal of it. So it's constant. The last 6 years that I've dealt in this position just to clean up on the water with the derelict boats and the regulatory signs, it's full time. There's a lot of heavy lifting out there. Let me see, can I move on? Oh, what do we do? Sorry, I didn't click in time. The Payton up there, the red sign where you can see, I think that's Melbourne. Is that your pretty legs? Yeah, so the guy with the nice legs putting up the aid and navigation there, that's Melbourne. And I think that's me by his side, but that's one of the private aids navigation. We have 100 plus on there. Next slide. I should have someone clicking for me. There it is. Okay, you want to click?
Yeah, I click.
But the uniform waterway markers, if you look at that 19 distinct regulatory permits on the water, now with the 19 permits, our largest permit has over 260 signs. So again, if you're familiar with the bay, if you go from the Alafai River all the way to Port Manatee, there's 260 plus signs just on that one permit. It's the Eastern Shoreline Permit, which is a giant manatee protection area. In our inventory, 1,057 individual waterway signs currently. Trying to see some of the good highlights here. The private aids and navigation, and just again, so you're familiar with it, we don't hold all the navigable channels in the county. A lot of the marinas, Little Harbor, Shell Point, Tampa Yacht Club, some of the other marinas, West Shore, they maintain their own channels. So we don't do anything private aids and navigation with that. We do Apollo Beach area, north and south. We do have some other ones, Cockroach Bay, Channel A, which is north of the Causeway, Dana Shores, Baycrest. So we do have a lot of private aids and navigation we do maintain, but not all of them. A lot of them are also maintained by the marinas. Talked a little bit about the derelict vessels already. They're in all different conditions. Talk real briefly, the channel on the Alafai River up by Williams Park was established about 3 to 4 years ago. The reason for that, we had several incidents where boats navigating through that area actually pulled anchor on some of the boats there. We had one strike the power line and caught on fire. Became a big issue. The fire department came out, had to extinguish the fire, which sunk the boat in the middle of the river. We had to work with FWC, Tampa Police, and the Sheriff's Office to be able to lift the vessel to get it out of there, which took us, I want to say about 6 weeks. It was a long process. The hull in the vessel itself, the integrity was gone. Once it burned the top deck of it, the sides would fold. So we had to get with the divers to try to come up with a game plan. And one of the guys used to work here, AJ Matthews, who was actually really good with the physics of all that, looked at it. We took the paper out, our napkin and the marker, and we said, okay, if we put lift bags and straps in this location, we could probably get it up. But it was a pretty intense operation to get that boat up out of there. But that's why we created the channel in the Alafai River, was because the boats anchoring in the middle of the river and the amount of boat traffic we had there was getting pretty hazardous. We had a lot of incidents that we had to deal with up there. That's another picture in the water. That's a burnt out boat right there. That was actually on the east side of Highway 41. Flip the next one. Oil spill response, public safety outreach, debris clean. We get involved with a lot of different things. We just sent a picture to Joe about a week or two ago. We were up out on the bay. And you get up in the mangrove, especially at the different tides, you'll find everything from seat cushions, all different types of furniture, appliances, and other hazardous things that are up in the mangrove. So we're constantly cleaning things out of the mangroves.
So one of the things with the cleanup also, in 2024, when we had the hurricanes, so we're in charge, of course, of waterway debris recovery. So out of all the counties in the state, we were number 2, only second to Taylor County with the amount of debris that we recovered. Alan actually worked many hours going out on the weekend with our ACA Dexter Barge to recover all the debris. And like Steve said, you got appliances out there, you got wood, you got drums out there, just some of everything that you would see, along with all the signings and the pilings that we've had to replace. So we've been working since then to diligently replace these pilings and these signage. We get a lot of citizens complaints as well as calls from the commissioner and things of that nature of signs being ran into, debris in the area, people going too fast in the no wake zones and things like that. So there are a lot of calls of service that we answer, and also partner with HCSO for safety related incidents on the water that we're able to go to at a moment's notice, and then we're always here to make sure the community is taken care of. So we wanted to make sure that we also put in, of course, the impact on Hillsborough River here. So we talked about Temple Terrace, just being able to partner with FWC, TPD around here. As Steve talked about, east of 54th, the Nature's Classroom, and beyond with safety inspections, and also that we've been able to remove 2 derelict vessels. Now, when we talk, I know we talk a lot about derelict vessels, and we know that's the purview of FWC, but along with FWC, in the last 6 years, we've been able to remove over 100 vessels from the waterway. And just like Steve said, a lot of that was down there on the Alafai, a lot of that down at Williams boat ramp. And, instances like that pop up all the time. So, and then the good thing is we're able to partner with FWC, whether it be HCSO or TPD, to make sure that we continue to try to provide a safe navigation for everyone, using the water. Oh, sorry. Let me back up about 14 slides. Anything like that?
Covered it all.
Steve?
Great job. Thank you.
All right.
Any questions?
Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Mention the derelict.
Ooh. No, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yes, that's, yeah.
So basically, if a crab trap is labeled properly with the permit number from that's a FWC function typically. Now recently, Keith and one of the other guys, Chris Bishop, who just left, had a report from Fish and Wildlife. There was how many buoys out there, Keith?
We recovered 22, but there were about 6 of them that we did.
Whole cluster. So if you imagine over by Picnic Island, they got a call. There was a cluster of buoys out there when they wanted to see what it was to recover. We have a 500-pound davit, little crane on the side of our boat. They were able to hook it and pull it up, and it was crab traps that came from South Florida, Everglades City. And they were able to determine the ownership of it. We brought them back to the office, and I think today the person that had them, I think it was too much money for them to come up and recover them all, but I think they got hooked to a ship. So a large ship was going through, and somewhere on the bottom of that ship, the traps were hooked to it, and it drug it all the way up here. But we do, so if there's abandoned or they end up on someone's dock or they're just somewhere where they're a hazard, we'll assist FWC with recovering them. But we have to be cautious too, because if they have a proper permit number, we have to notify the owner of the trap to see what their intentions are. And if they're off station, sometimes they'll come and they'll recover them also. Because we've had them by boat ramps and docks and stuff where they really shouldn't be. And we'll typically get with them, give them notice that they need to be relocated so they're not a hazard. And to date, they're pretty good. They're pretty good about responding and coming to get them.
There's some rules associated with the removal of crab traps, even if it's a ghost trap, whether it's a crab trap, a lobster trap, whatever. FWC would regulate that. There's probably information on their website that would provide more information on that, but as a rule, we don't, and it's not a hazard navigation, we don't.
I know Tampa Bay Watch handles a ghost trap rodeo like every 2 years on the Pinellas side. So we may want to explore, how they do that process. I don't know how many you encounter, but if it's justified. They've been very helpful lately. We've, Bear Can Island has resurfaced. And so they've been assisting in our enforcement efforts out there too. So just having a marine unit now has been very helpful. So, thank you.
I keep seeing NOAA grants for derelict vessels, crab pots, and so you guys ever need any funding support to help with these?
That would be great. Thank you.
When it comes to the derelict vessels, it's more than just taking a boat out of the water. Sometimes you have to mitigate hazardous material that's on the boat, whether diesel fuel, gasoline, motor oil, hydraulic oil, all of those are a factor. You have to contain them, and if it's contained on the boat, you have to remove it from the boat before the boat's disposed of. And that's probably one of the most costly parts of derelict recovery.
Have been so super helpful. Port Authority with our marine construction application reviews, especially moreover with the debris removal that people, citizens, residents have called in, and we did not have the equipment at the time to handle it. Gave you guys a phone call, sent you a picture or a lat long location, and you guys took care of it, got it out of the water, and you just have been a super wonderful asset and resource to have. So very, very appreciative to all of you and your staff.
Thank you. Yeah, seconded on that. And also thank you for, like Steve was saying, getting us over those assessments on navigable safety as well. You're always super fast at getting those over to us, so we appreciate that. It's a huge help.
Does anybody else have any other questions or comments online or in person? Okay, well, we will, hopefully Diego will share his presentation with all of us, and thank you guys so much, Marine Safety Unit. feel free to stay around for the rest of the meeting. Okay. Next on our list is consistency recommendations. And the last two are Port Authority reviews by me, and all of the first rounds are all EPC, so I will let Michael Kyle take the lead.
All right, first we have item 7A, which is for minor work permit 82552. This is for a dock replacement with a non-covered, or a dock and a non-covered boat lift, as well as the installation of replacement riprap to help fill in the existing revetment that was on the site. Any questions or concerns on this one? That we have. The list is 7B, which is for 85053, which is for the construction of a dock with a non-covered boat lift. Any questions or concerns on that one?
No concerns at all with the project. The only thing that I wanted to just make note of is the cover letter and the permit card incorrectly mentioned construction of a dock with one non-covered boat lift. And the drawings actually show it's going to be a dock with one non-covered boat lift and one non-covered boat slip. So it's actually going to be two slips.
We will keep an eye out, make sure that we're noting that properly.
Awesome.
Or the open.
Awesome, but no other concerns regarding the actual scope of work or anything.
All right, then, item 7C is for 82940. This was for the installation of a covered lift, a dock, and then an activity platform within an existing upland cut slip that the applicant had going up into their property. Any questions or concerns on that one? I will say there was a slight change. If you look at exhibit A2, you'll see that where that seawall line is out at the very edge of the structure, there's like two triangles that are poking out past that dotted line that represents the seawall line. They did end up removing those two triangles to keep everything. So they just cut it off to where basically now instead of those two walkways being rectangular, they're just cut off at an angle to keep everything in. Since it was a non-substantial change, it didn't expand the project or change it substantially. We took care of that with an exhibit replacement letter, just to show that new design. Concerns or comments on that one?
I have a quick question. So an activity platform, is that just a bigger sort of dock that you can, I don't know, put your kayaks on and things like that? Or are there like other activities going on?
So yeah, the activity platforms, we've also seen them called deck lifts or platform lifts. Essentially, it's when you have a boat lift machinery, but rather than the kind of framing to support a boat, it is used for lowering kayaks or paddle boards or things like that down to the water's edge so you can take them off. I think people also sometimes use them just to access the water and get down into the water. Anything else on that one? 721. This one is related to the next item. They're adjacent properties who both are receiving replacement seawall permits for their existing seawall on their sites. Both of those did have existing footers, and so the footers could not be taken out. So the seawalls are getting replaced within 18 inches of that existing footer that they have present on the site. And that's going to be the same for item 7E, which is 82732. Any questions or comments on those two?
if we knew the, width of the footer, because it's not on the drawings. I know it's got the no more than 18-inch waterward extent for the seawall replacement. So I'm assuming that it's less than 18 inches, but it would be good if on the drawings, we actually knew exactly what the width of that footer was.
Gotcha. Sounds good. We'll make sure to get that information. I don't know if we have it readily available. Or if it was an instance where we were relying on the notes from the engineer to provide the engineered plans. Because I know at least what they're showing here is that that footer or toe wall is beneath the substrate. So I do know we do have a hard time whenever that's the case, getting out there and getting an accurate reading of how wide that is. Usually we do have to rely on the engineer for those covered toe walls. But we'll make sure moving forward to get that information shown there. I would imagine, at least for these seawall plans, the plans are to scale.
If you look at the section, the next page, you might be able to. Yeah, it looks like it's less than. You just skip over,
Oh, okay.
maybe get that.
Yeah, so that exhibit there that Diego has up currently, the scale is there. And I do know whenever the scale is accurate, in which case I imagine it would be, we have in the past also utilized that. If the scale of the entire plan is accurate, we will use that sometimes to call that out in the file. But we can also make sure to have it or explicitly call it out through these ones where there is the toe wall out there.
Yeah, it's just good documentation if the toe wall is gonna stay. If you can't see it, then just ask the engineer on record to actually put that
Show that on there.
dimension on there. Yep. Because what if 10 years from now, somebody wants to do something and they're not sure about the width of that foot?
Yeah, exactly.
No other concerns though from the board.
And 7F 83064. This one is for the addition of a non-covered boat lift to an existing multi-slip marina. I think we've had a couple of these come in recently, but they've just been going through and adding in the lifts that were never installed or were installed and then subsequently removed for this multi-slip area.
Did a bunch of these for this Marina Club years ago, as well. Everything looked great with the proposal. The only question that I had was, I was wondering, since the proposed lift is actually waterward of the end of the finger pier, access pier, why they didn't extend the pier for safe getting on and off the boat?
Gotcha. I don't believe that was something that we touched on during our review. I know in the ones that we've had recently that were similar to this, they have had that similar design where the new proposed boat lift is a foot off of, or I believe it's a foot, yeah, 1 foot off of the end of the actual access walkway. We've been taking it as when the boat is gonna be parked in there, that the bow is gonna hang out past that access walkway, allowing them to access that way. If a new one comes in for this, we can make sure to ask them exactly what the design of. My assumption is that they haven't been wanting to get into modifying the actual dock structures and they're trying to just work off of what's already existing there on site. Would be my assumption on that, but it has not been something we brought up during the review.
It's just a question.
That was the last one we had for the EPC minor work permits.
Great, thank you. And then the last two are gonna be the port review, non-delegated minor work permits. First one, 25-007 for Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority. It is a revision to the previous permit that we issued and was reviewed by the TAC. The Tampa Expressway ended up bidding a contractor that changed, modified the bridge support piles that were going to be in the river. That was the main change for this application. And the construction methodology was actually to reduce the impact into the river. Instead of having to do these giant coffer dams for each support, they condensed and limited the amount of support piles, and they're not going to be doing the coffer dams any longer for the base of these support piles. It was also to hopefully reduce the amount of time in the river channel that they would be blocking navigation while they're constructing these additional support piles for the interior expansion of the Leroy Selman Expressway over the Hillsborough River. The only concerns that I have gotten so far on this project was actually from the city of Tampa and associated with the park, Tony Janice Park, and the construction of the living shorelines and West River walkways. The projects were intended to be staggered so that they weren't impacting one another with construction storage areas and access for their job site areas. But that is coming to a head, and it looks like they are going to be juggling somewhat between the two or three different projects, between the City of Tampa projects and the Leroy Selman Expressway project. So the City of Tampa just, their comments and concerns were just basically making sure that there is enough time and space for everybody to do their jobs without impacting one another. Other than that, there is no other concerns that I have received. Does anybody have any questions regarding the modification to the Leroy Selman Expressway expansion project? Hearing none. Okay, moving on. Next one is minor work permit 26-007 for the city of Temple Terrace for the Riverside Park improvements. They are going to be building elevated boardwalks throughout all of the uplands, crossing some of the stormwater ditches and wetland areas that are on the interior of the lot. And then for the Port Authority's permitting jurisdiction, a portion of that elevated boardwalk is going to be along the river frontage. There is going to be an access walkway out to an observational dock. That is also going to have a floating kayak launch on it. And then there is going to be on the elevated boardwalk along the river frontage, a new observation tower that is going to be built. And EPC Wetlands Division is reviewing all of the landward stuff, landward of the ordinary high. I will be reviewing everything, like I said, along the river frontage, ordinary high out into the river under the port's permitting jurisdiction. The only concern so far that I have received is from the south adjacent private single-family residential property owner, which she was requested to put her concerns in writing. There are more questions regarding public safety, security of the park, and private security from the viewpoint of the new observational tower that is going to kind of be pointing in their direction. So it was more safety and security questions, post-construction with bringing more people to this park. Not really any concerns regarding the marine construction. So I told her those were out of our permitting realm questions. However, I will certainly pass along her questions to the City of Temple Terrace and their agent to address. Does anybody else have any questions or comments regarding the Riverside Park improvements? I did forget to say, along the river frontage where the elevated boardwalk, the dock access walkway, and the observational tower are, there are large cypress trees. And I requested that they be each and every one GPS point located to ensure that those proposed structures avoid the large trees. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. Do we want to make a vote for all of them all together? Is there anyone opposed to voting all of these all together? Okay, hearing no opposition. And a lot of head shaking, yes. Motion to find all of item 7 projects consistent recommendation.
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, great. All of item 7 consistency projects are determined to be consistent. Next on our agenda is other business. Diego has a new welcome aboard packet to go over.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, I created a new welcome aboard packet. I don't know if any of you have gotten a chance to go through the agenda itself. It's a little bit more revamped, a few more graphics. Key notes to take and guess points of interest, I should say, is the very end. There's a point of contact roster for issues related to the river for all the jurisdictions. I updated it the best I could with the assistance of some other county representatives. But I also wanted to let you guys know, please let me know if any of these points of contact, if are erroneous, if their numbers have changed, their names have changed, or if any new ones need to be added. And then their areas or their jurisdictional areas are indicated by the X. What's nice about this as well, it's your welcome aboard package, so new members will from now on be getting this as well. Part of the welcome aboard package includes the river master plan. That's part of it. It includes the bylaws and a few other aspects of the TAC and the river board itself that are that new members should know, like the legislation and so on and so forth.
So I'd like to suggest once we had a chance to.
Yes, absolutely.
That the last piece maybe be posted on the web page for you. Just so it's available to the public. I think it's a great resource and readily available for us when you come from the welcome back. That's for it. I think we used to put that out when we had a publication that we distributed. It was actually a hard copy. It's what happens when you're old. Like that. But so it was a nice thing that people could. But short of that, I think we have it online.
I will do that.
Yeah, these little. That's something. Who I even start with, so that would be great. And I was gonna ask the same question, if maybe next month you could take some time for all of us to really go through it, please, and then have any edits or updates for Diego. The first thing that I noticed, which is not a big deal, but City of Tampa no longer is doing dock permits. They are only doing shoreline seawall permits in the City of Tampa. And that's brand new. So that might be something that maybe we could do like a star caveat for people. There are some other edits, just looking through it real quick. So
Absolutely.
next month would be great, I think, for all of us to digest all of this. But thank you so much. It's great.
If you guys can get me any feedback edits that you have the week before next month's meeting, so I can apply them to, and then what's presented to you is the updated version. That'd be great. In addition to that, any other questions, comments?
Before I forget to mention it, on page 3, the ex officio representatives, are those all 813 area code?
I have to double check.
Okay. I don't see area code. I'm from the Pinellas side, so I'm used to 727. So if it's 813, I would just be something about that on page 2 as well. I see there's a few without an area code. Oh.
So, all right, so we got some homework. Is that everything that you wanted to brief?
That's it. I just wanted to let the TAC and Joel know, I have gotten feedback from 2 of the board members. They do plan on attending the River Stewardship Awards in October. That would be Councilman Kravitz representing Temple Terrace and Councilman Maniscalco representing the city of Tampa. In addition to representatives from the Temple Terrace Marine Unit as well.
Yep, I got that, Diego, and I can accommodate them, and also the chief, the recipient, and the recipient's wife, I believe, right?
Okay, yep, I'll let them know.
Excuse me, we can't hear the room.
Regarding the overall Bay Area, but there was one item, it's a 2026 Bay Community Survey that they wanted to let people know is available for everybody that lives in the Tampa Bay area. It was started in 2024, and it's a community poll to survey to give your feedback on the Bay and what you've seen different, your behaviors, your mental health, your knowledge of the Bay. The survey opened in August 1st and it will end October 1st, 2026. And you can find the survey on the TBEP website if you wanted to fill out the survey. That was all I have. Is any, okay.
Hey, Amber, so just wanted to provide a little bit of an update. We are still in the phase 3 water shortage order that's set to go through the beginning of October. We are watching conditions currently, so it is possible if conditions don't rapidly improve, considering where we are in the rainfall season, in the wet season, we could extend that water shortage order past October. Or even move to the next phase. So appreciate everybody's continued efforts for water conservation, including our code enforcement here sitting next to me. It's very helpful. And so just some questions as well that I get pretty frequently. So HOAs cannot force homeowners at this time to replace their lawn. And they cannot be violated for not doing so. They can't receive fines, anything like that, until the water shortage has been rescinded, has been removed. So please tell your neighbors, your community associations, the property managers, that is the case.
Not to put you on the spot, but how many inches behind are we still from like the normal amount of waterfall we should expect?
Good question. If you're interested, I can tell you, I just did the calculation here. So January through August, the historic average is 38.20 inches, where as of last week, we're at 25.90. So about 12.3 inches still below average. we were doing really well there for a couple weeks where we got those rains. That did help the aquifer level in the central aquifer. We went from 21% full to 24. It's been dry this week. And when it's very hot and very dry as well, water usage tends to go up as well. We'll have to wait to see at the end of the week where the aquifer number falls. And since we're connected to Tampa Bay water as well, the Bill Young Reservoir is still very, very low for where we are in this time of the season. So additionally, Tampa Bay water is having to rely a bit more on the groundwater source right now, while they look to refill that, basically water savings account with the reservoir. So currently, and it is rising because of the rain we received on the Alafai River, a couple of weeks ago. So currently it is at 4, and ideally at the end of the dry season, you want it to be at 15.5. So we have a long way to go. It is increasing, which is helpful. But again, especially as we're relying on the aquifer, and then desal exists as well. Just water conservation still needs to be continued. Question? 4 billion gallons. So ideally you want it to be at 15.5 billion at the end of the dry season, which is rapidly approaching. And, or as close to it as you can get.
Well, I wish it was better news, but thank you for the update. It is very helpful. And I have done my part. I've stopped my husband from running the shower, so I did my part.
Irrigation usage is by far the largest piece. We do get questions every so often about certain projects happening or those kinds of things, but it's the lawn irrigation that's by far the biggest usage. So that's why we're on that 1 day a week. But the good news is, to end on that then, is the Hillsborough River at Fowler, it hasn't been this high since January of 2025 because that rainfall we received.
That is a good news. And I guess my only question is, with the golf courses, they are obviously under the same mandate as the rest of us.
They're under a different stipulations that are relating to them as well. A majority of golf courses do use recycled water. But yes, they are under certain specifications where, rough and greens and what can be watered and what can't during the days of the week.
Thank you for that update. Does anybody else have any questions for Amber?
Do you have any violations you can? Hillsborough County leads the way.
So we crossed today 4,200 cases just this year.
So local governments, the utilities are responsible for the enforcement of these watering restrictions because they're the utilities. And so Joe in Hillsborough County has literally been leading the way.
Just mentioned, since the mic is open, I'm about to go into a dengue fever meeting. That's another issue, kind of water related. Do know that's a thing. There are quite a few confirmed cases. We're working now with some of the high target areas, tire shops, swimming pools, things like that. But be cognizant, this particular mosquito it's not a nighttime, dawn, dusk thing, it's all day. And we don't want to get this hemorrhagic fever because it's not nice. So that would be that.
Thank you. Great reminder. Put on your bug spray. Does anybody else have any comments related to the water shortages and restrictions? Okay, does anybody else have any other business? No, hearing none. All right, well then we will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you guys. Thank you all.
Thank you.